DIA just told the Great Hall developer it is time to pack up your stuff and go. We try to figure out how an unfinished airport gets finished when the developer is pushed out of the job. Your tax dollars aren't paying for that project at the airport, but any money you spend there might be. Remember when John Hickenlooper's presidential run was the worst kept secret in Colorado? Now his potential run for Senate appears that way too. Kyle's off, and somehow they decided to give me an open. Look at it, it's really cool. I'm Steve Stager. This is next. Simply put, Denver's airport filed for divorce today. After months of very public bickering, today DIA announced it is severing its ties with Great Hall Partners. That's the developer charged with the multi-million-dollar facelift of the airport's terminal. The reason behind the rift? To carry the theme, irreconcilable differences.
First off, there's no question, looking back in hindsight, we probably could have done some things different. I'm not saying that we are perfect.
Standing inside a terminal that's been reduced to a shell in some places, DIA CEO Kim Day refused to call the failed contract with Great Hall Partners a mistake or even a debacle.
This is an unfortunate transition.
An unfortunate transition. Sounds like when you get into the right lane and accidentally exit the highway. In this case, DIA is exiting its contract with Great Hall Partners.
In any relationship, you're trying to work through your differences, and ultimately we just came to a point of, we had different priorities, and that's okay. And you just sometimes you have to look that in the face and just be able to make a decision to move forward.
The airport today says even after mediation, it couldn't see eye to eye with Great Hall Partners on things like the project's schedule, the budget, and other safety concerns. The key takeaways? Day says the project won't be completed before its initial deadline of 2021, though she believes it'll happen before 2025. She says the project will stick to a now expanded budget of $770 million, though the Great Hall may not be as great as the plans say, as the scale of it may have to be reduced to keep it close to that number.
We're still going to give the citizens what we have promised them.
Great Hall Partners released a statement late today saying they are disappointed and disagree with the characterizations of how we arrived at this point. They blame a problem with concrete, a problem they say the airport never disclosed to them. Yet they say they plan to leave, promising a professional and smooth withdrawal. Meantime, the mess at DIA will remain messy, leaving passengers left to maneuver. How'd they put it? Yet another unfortunate transition. Denver Mayor Michael Hancock is standing by his leadership at DIA. He told 9 Wants to Know investigator Chris Vanderveen that he was part of making the decision to fire the developer along with the airport CEO Kim Day. We asked, with DIA being touted as one of the top airports in the U.S., is this a bad look for the airport and for Denver?
And this development, is it not a small development?
Right.
Are you embarrassed by this?
Yeah, embarrassed but disappointed as well. But you know what? That's part of, when you are ambitious and when you have a lot of goals that you're aiming for, you're going to have these moments where you're disappointed and you don't quite reach the destination that you want to reach at. But the reality is that my job and the job of the leadership of the airport is to be good stewards of this airport. And sometimes that means putting aside your own desires of vision for the airport.
So how does DIA pay for all of this anyway? There's not a special airport tax. None of the money comes from your airline ticket. Our Marshall Zellinger breaks down how and where you help contribute.
How is DIA affording this over-budget, behind-schedule, and soon-to-be without a contractor redevelopment of the Great Hall? Well, I can tell you how DIA is not paying for it. Your tax dollars. DIA funds projects like this through money generated at the airport, not your taxes. Like when you park at the airport. That money pays parking expenses. Anything left over goes to projects like the Great Hall. When you buy a burger at a concession stand, you're not paying DIA directly, but the burger joint has an agreement with the airport to pay a percentage of its revenue, somewhere between 10 and 20%. The more burgers passengers buy, the more DIA gets from the burger place. And that money can be used for the Great Hall redevelopment. It's the same idea with the retail stores in the airport, too. As for the airlines, they need gates. The money the airlines pay to rent those gates also can be used to pay for the Great Hall project. There are 2 specific fees you pay that cannot be used for the Great Hall. When you fly to or from DIA, your airline charges you a $4.50 passenger facility charge, and DIA gets that. The FAA must approve how DIA spends that money, and it has to be used to enhance operational safety and security, like repairing the runways and taxiways. When someone rents a car at DIA, they're charged a $2.15 customer facility charge each day they have the car. But that money can only be used to improve the rental car facilities and not the Great Hall. So the only place you hand money over to the airport that can be used for redevelopment is at the parking lots. When you buy food, drink, merchandise, you're not directly paying the airport for anything. Kyle, Steve. Wow, so used to that. Yeah, it gets filtered through the business. It doesn't go directly from you to DIA. One other tidbit I learned today, Steve, do you think the concession areas at the airport price gouge?
Absolutely, because I always think I get price gouged.
So they are limited to not being able to charge you more than 10% than they would at a similar place they might own in Arvada or Aurora or somewhere else. They're capped at 10%. They can charge more, but only 10%.
I always use the Caribou coffee as a gauge because as a reporter who spends a lot of time at the airport doing live shots and stuff, and it always seemed a little bit more expensive, but not necessarily that much more.
Not as bad as going to a sporting event, but don't get me started on that.
Yeah. What's interesting with these changes now coming with Great Hall Partners leaving this project, they were anticipated to operate and maintain what they redeveloped in the airport. They were going to keep some of that revenue down the road. Now with this, DIA says that they are going to maintain all of that revenue because they are going to operate those parts of the terminal.
So I just got some numbers from last year from DIA. So for example, I'm just seeing like for the concession areas, if I'm going across correctly, it looks like they got $83 million in operating revenue just from the concession areas alone.
It's a lot. And you're saying they don't price gouge. All right, Steve, Marshall, thank you very much. Now, remember when John Hickenlooper left the governor's office and his plan to run for president was really the worst kept secret in Colorado politics? Sounds like the same in his potential run for Senate. Today, the New York Times reported that Hick is mulling ending his bid for president for a chance to challenge Republican Senator Cory Gardner. Democrats familiar with Hick told the Times that Hick drove to an event with Senator Michael Bennet in Iowa this weekend and they talked about it. Hick's staff declined to comment. A man from Aurora is officially in the clear after getting caught in a gnarly gray area of hemp laws. The state of Colorado was watching what happened. Andrew Ross's lawyer said a judge signed off on dropping drug trafficking charges against him. Ross was facing 15 to life after police in Oklahoma thought they made one of the largest pot busts ever. Ross insisted the security company he works for was transporting legal hemp to Colorado. The Colorado Department of Agriculture was keeping tabs on how all of this played out. The guy leading their new hemp initiative feels there will be lots of eyes on Colorado and what it does next.
What we're seeing is these loads are either coming to Colorado or out of Colorado. And because marijuana is legal here in Colorado, I think that the country is kind of sort of looking to see kind of what position Colorado is going to be taking or what action Colorado should be taking.
Hemp was legalized under federal law in December. After that, Colorado created a new hemp initiative to regulate the industry and help it grow. Along with working with law enforcement, the Department of Agriculture plans on working with our neighboring states so hemp can be transported across state lines without Coloradans getting in trouble. Protesters want the Attorney General's office to lead the investigation of the Colorado Springs Police Department after the shooting of 19-year-old Devon Bailey. Bailey was killed August 3rd when officers were investigating an armed robbery. Surveillance shows Bailey running away from police. Community leaders and local clergy vowed their support for the Bailey family in the name of justice.
We demand transparency. Yeah. We demand justice. Yeah. We demand some resignations. Yeah. We demand some firings. Yeah. We demand some new people in government. Yeah.
So we called both Colorado Springs Police Department and the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. Neither one offered comment on the ongoing investigation. Senate President Leroy Garcia is the latest Colorado Democrat to be the target of another recall effort. The committee wanting to recall Senator Garcia accuses him of voting for his own political interests and not the best interest of his constituents. It specifically cites votes on oil and gas reform and a vote on a bill that would have allowed the state to hold tax money it is required to return because of the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. It also says lawsuits against Garcia are costing taxpayers. So Garcia defended himself to our partners at Colorado Politics, saying these groups just want to recall people over policy differences. While the committee opened an office yesterday, it has not gotten a petition approved by the Secretary of State's office. A leader of that effort says they hope to have that done by next week. May I make a recommendation? This is usually the part where we point you towards something that wasn't done by us, but today it actually is ours. It's a good reflection written by someone who is not here this week. Kyle taking some days off the desk, but he is still tweeting. Today he's celebrating 12 years in Denver with 9 News. He shared a little bit about what that 12 years has meant to him and his family in a thread on Twitter. It's a good read and a short one. We've shared it on the next Twitter page. Colorado has 58 14ers.
It's just like a really cool feeling to know that you've been on top of all of these. A lot of people haven't.
At 18 years old, 2 Colorado teens are among the few who've made it to the top of all of them. Next. Cool open. Some deputies with the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office are pulling double duty, deputy and artists. The Sheriff's Office just opened a new substation on Parker Road. The walls were looking a little bare, so 2 deputies decided to add a little color of their own. The Sheriff's Office says Deputy Ed Doremus and his kids carved a metal badge out of a 1990s wheel wheat for the station. It took them 20 hours to do that. And then Deputy Craig Hawkins made a thin blue line wood flag. The deputies surprised the Sheriff's Office when they donated that art. Getting on a plane with an empty seat next to you is a victory of its own, which makes a guy's recent flight from Aspen to Salt Lake City feel like a dream come true.
Will the only passenger on this flight kindly board at this time?
That's me. Love that. Vincent Pione, who's a director and cinematographer, chronicled his unique solo flight on his cell phone. After boarding the plane, he was personally greeted by the captain. He also filmed service personnel loading sandbags into the cargo hold of the plane, to make up for the lack of passengers. The flight attendant's welcome announcement was also modified for this unusual situation.
Good evening, Vincent, and welcome aboard.
Thank
you.
We
look forward to taking care of you today. If you need any assistance getting settled, we're delighted to serve you. To ensure an on-time departure, please remain in your assigned seat.
Yep.
I really hope they went through the whole safety message just directed at him. If you have flown recently, you know how crowded commercial flights can be, so this would be a pretty darn good scenario.
Steve, like you, he's living his best life. And first class and all the pretzels and cookies you can eat, count me in. Sounds like fun. This is a great day to fly in Denver. Off to the east, a whole different weather world. 5 tornado reports in Yuma County, Kit Carson County. Thankfully, no reports of damage or injuries, but these storms also producing 2-inch diameter hail and heavy flooding rainfall. Our high? How's this for being average? We like being average, and this is just fine because we could be in the triple digits this time of year. Tornado watch scaled back as this complex of thunderstorm pushes into Nebraska and Kansas. Sorry, done enough damage in Colorado. We're watching the outflow boundaries, though, because a couple of those could push some moisture right back into Denver tonight, which means it may not be entirely calm and quiet, even though it is right now. You can see where the heavy storms are. As we track them out tonight, we see a return flow of moisture that, again, could bring a brief thunder shower. Boulder, Longmont, DIA, North Denver, these are the areas we're watching. And then the same areas hit hard today may see severe thunderstorms develop again tomorrow. So an active day for farmers and ranchers out on the plains trying to keep the herds and the crops safe. Partly cloudy and 58 in Denver tonight with an isolated storm late. Sunny and 88 tomorrow. Same scenario. We're on the fringe of a storm here. All the heavy weather is east. Sunshine and 90 for Thursday. 20% chance of storms for Friday and Saturday. And then a warm week coming up. The clouds last night, Steve, were unbelievable. These are mammatus clouds. So many people sending pictures in tonight. Loved it. And don't forget the 9 News weather app. I know you've got it on your phone, but it's super handy when the weather is crazy and kind of all over the place like it is today.
Yes, those clouds were something last night.
The pictures are amazing. We've been posting them all day on all the social networks, and check it out. There are hundreds and hundreds.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. Appreciate it.
Okay.
It's a sign that's keeping drivers in a little bit of suspense. This is what Kristen first thought when she saw the merge ahead sign that wants everyone to merge in the middle. She saw this whole thing she saw it on Bowles between Pierce and Platte Canyon in Littleton. Maybe they merge in the middle. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean there. Share the signs that you see with us. They can be funny, they can be shocking, or even serious ones that really make you think. You know how to do it. Use the hashtag HeyNext or email at next@9news.com.
I'm really glad we did it, and it feels good to be done.
14ers take a lot of work. Good thing they're young.
I mean, 58 was a big goal, but it seemed like something we could accomplish.
58 at just 18 years old. They tell us how they packed them all in next. Coloradans are an adventurous people. Last night we introduced you to a really cool 82-year-old woman who went whitewater rafting for the first time. It was awesome. Tonight we want to introduce you to some really cool 18-year-olds who just finished hiking all 58 of Colorado's 14ers.
We spent a lot of time together, so it's really nice to have someone to that kind of shares your same interests.
That is a good one.
That's a good picture. All right, I'm Hunter.
I'm Connor.
We just finished all 58 Colorado's 14ers.
I mean, 58 was a big goal, but it seemed like something we could accomplish.
It's just like a really cool feeling to know that you've been on top of all of these. A lot of people haven't.
I was 14 when I did my first one.
I mean, it wasn't super instant. I think that first year I only did that one.
After doing, 4 or 5 14ers, I realized I really had a passion for being out in the mountains and hiking and all that.
I probably did like 5 the second year. Then the ball started to roll a little bit.
In the past 3 summers, we've averaged 15 peaks.
I think this year we did 17.
We tried to fit so much hiking and climbing into so little time, especially this summer.
So my favorite 14er was probably Wetterhorn Peak.
I'd say Kit Carson was my favorite.
Least favorite, it's kind of a toss-up between Mount Columbia and Snowmass Mountain.
When we did Snowmass a couple weeks ago, it's like an 8-mile backpack into the lake, and we were getting rained on the entire time.
So it was just like a rough couple days.
It feels really good.
It feels definitely good that our work's paid off for sure.
It's awesome to know that we really reached that goal, and now we can have so much more to do.
So what's next for Hunter and Connor? Now they have their eyes set on getting to the top of the Grand Tetons in Wyoming. Not everyone can make it out to Colorado's mountains to climb, so someone found a way to take the climbing with them, and it's the most Colorado thing we've seen today. That's next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a climber who found a way to get in a little practice anywhere. Stuart Sipkin saw this van parked out in Golden. He noticed that most vans usually have a ladder. This one has a climbing wall and footholds bolted onto it instead. Let us know the most Colorado thing you saw today. Send it to us with the hashtag HeyNext. Speaking of HeyNext, Russell writes in and says, can those workers leaving the DIA project start working on the light rail to Boulder and Longmont? Well, Russell, perhaps that wouldn't be an unfortunate transition. See you next time.